Story time with Hoot. So I used to be a head women's college basketball coach for 8 years. Won a conference title, had a Coach of the Year award, but there's one story in particular that I'll never forget. And it involved my best defensive player, my shortest player. She was queer. She was from the Middle Eastern community, so there was a whole lot to navigate in terms of that space. And she was in her second year as a sophomore. And this was a pivotal year as a coach because I was in my 5th year. I was also coaching men's college tennis at the same time, which we had started to have a lot of success with the men's tennis team. But the women's basketball program, we had won 3, 8, 10, 12, and this was the 5th year, and I felt like I really needed to get this team over that hump. So we started the season 4-7, and I turned to my assistants, I asked them their opinions, I valued my assistants, and a player came into my office before our next game, before practice that day. And this is the player that was my best defender, best attitude, hustled the most, was in the best shape. And she came in, said, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, of course. I had an open door policy. Always trying new things, always open to learning. And she said, "How come I'm not starting?" And I don't know what it was about that moment, because I was welling up. Maybe it was my own journey of getting cut 4 times growing up. Maybe it was the fact that I've had 6 dads and 2 of my dads have committed suicide. Maybe it was the fact that somebody actually came in and wanted to talk to me about something important, that they actually cared that much, that they weren't starting, which says a whole lot about somebody, that they're not necessarily being arrogant. Could have been that scenario, but that wasn't the situation. She bit her tongue for 11 games, and she finally felt like she had to come in and ask what seemed like a benign question. And my response was, fighting back tears, "I don't know." So I started her the next game, and I made one other change. And for all the young coaches out there, you're going to make mistakes. Acknowledge your mistakes. So one thing I always did, if I made a mistake, I always acknowledged it to the players. That doesn't give them control. It just shows that they can see right through you anyways, but it shows that you're willing to admit your mistakes. So the other change that I made was I completely abandoned the offense. We had great players. And we went to the old Utah Jazz sort of shuffle cut, triangle offense. Not the Chicago Bulls and the Lakers triangle offense with Phil Jackson, but what I consider the triangle offense, with a back screen at the top of the key, and then a cutter, and then a second pick from the wing. And we ran a lot of that action and pushed, because I had 5 players on the floor at all times, because I started to bench my true post players because they weren't going to fit into this system. I tried early in the season and it wasn't working. That was part of what I made a change for, to go faster. So I had an undersized post, and we proceeded to win 17 games in a row. Now, this player in question didn't come out much the rest of the year. Like I said, best defender, and it turns out she was my best 3-point shooter. She had over 63s during that 17-game span. She had 2 games where she made 8. She had another game where she made 7. And one of those games where she made 8 was in the state playoffs in the first round. Now, we went on to win the conference championship. We ran the table. A little bit of luck. One of the games we won with 1 second left because of a technical foul, because a fan ran on the floor after they had been warned earlier in the game to stay off the floor when they were cheering. Person apparently didn't know the game. Apparently they thought the game was over, and their player hit the free throw and they ran on the floor, but there was still less than a second left, and the ref did a double take and nailed her, and my player ice in her veins, Denise White, proceeded to go make 2 free throws and won the game for us. And that allowed us to run the table and go 12-0 in conference play, but I digress. So one of those games that she hit the 8 threes was the first round of the state playoffs against a team that had run a grade zone all year. They themselves had won 20 games. And to hit 8 threes in a playoff game, they knew she was going to shoot them. We knew they were going to play zone, and it didn't matter. And we blew them out. And then the second game of the state playoffs, we lost to the eventual state champs, Mount Sac. We were up 17-16 early in that game, in large part due to her. But it gets better. She was nominated, and she won an award, a state award. Now, I want you to think about this. All because she came into my office and had the courage to ask me why she wasn't starting. So to all the young players out there, and I encourage this as a professional basketball skills trainer, talk to your coaches. Talk to them often. Be the first one in the gym. Be the last one to leave. Continue to ask questions. Get extra reps in. Just like math, it may take you a little longer to pick up a concept, but always be the hardest working. Always dive for loose balls. And always have the best attitude and be the greatest teammate. Those things are all controllable. And out of, I think I figured it out, there was about 30 to 50,000 student athletes in the state of California community college system. She was one of 5 kids from all sports, from all schools throughout the entire state, that won an award that was based on on-court performance, community service, and grades. And she has since gone on to chiropractic school, and she's a successful chiropractor. But the things that she represents and what she taught me as a coach forever changed me. So shout out to Chanel, who I talk to still periodically, and to all the players out there. Women and girls quit at a much higher rate than their male counterparts. So we got to do everything we can to keep girls and women, during this reckoning in particular, in sports. Encourage them. Realize that a lot of their reasons for playing in organized sports, and even individual sports, is much different a lot of times than the boys. And show them love. Show them that you care about them. Between the ears and above the eyebrows, as much as you care about how well they can do a Steve Smith or a KJ or a triple cross or a step back 3. Because that matters in the end more than anything. So, until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. But that's one of my coaching stories. And today I'm going to the University of San Diego to watch Steve Lavin practice in their new multi-million practice facility. I'm always learning, even though I'm in my 34th year of coaching. And I hope you continue to learn, and whatever it is that you're doing in life, whatever your craft is, always be a lifelong learner. And always be more interested than you are interesting. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.